This weapon tier list was tough. On one side of things, you got people going for attack percentage goblets and energy recharge sands. On the other side of things, you got people going with, elemental goblets, energy recharge sands, or energy recharge sands. It's just going between two different things. In this video, we're going to be going over the best weapons overall for Raiden Shogun Ball or Eye or whatever you want to call her at this point. The major thing you gotta know is that a lot of weapons are extremely good on Ball, but only if you get your stat ratios to a great rating. And some weapons overperform in certain situations and underperform in others based on the buffs that you're using for your team composition. To determine, now since Raiden Shogun Ball is a very complex character, what I did was I tried to figure out the optimal pairing between the attack percentage the sands, the attack percentage goblet, the electro goblet, and the energy recharge sands, depending on what the best situation is for Ball, depending on the weapon. And I actually took that math and went into a calculator and try to figure out exactly what the best was for Ball. What changes a lot of the time is if you add a Bennett buff or a Sarah buff, your damage will actually change in a very significant way when calculating overall, because Bennett buffs and Sarah buffs will affect Raiden Shogun Ball in very different ways per weapon. So a while ago, I created a basic damage calculator. Only have to do is type in one side of things here and the other side of things here for whatever damage you want to calculate. You can also change crit chance values if you want to figure out damage per second. Very simple. If you won't want to say damage per second, you just take it to 100%, and then that's the total crit damage that you would be dealing. It also includes swirl calculations, and I also created a Ball emblem stat calculator. This will also help you calculate between R1 engulfing lightning, R5 engulfing lightning, and how much the damage increases there. But if you just want to know how much damage you get from Ball with an emblem set, the number right here, which says damage percentage, will actually change based upon the total amount of damage that you're getting directly from the emblem of the Severed Fate set and Ball's passive. By changing the additional damage percentage that you're going to be getting on each type of weapon based upon the different artifact rolls you're trying, you can actually get very, very different ratings. So this first set right here, I'm using Ball with an elemental damage goblet and an energy recharge sands. And because I went for an elemental damage goblet and energy recharge sands, I started out with a Vortex Vanquisher at 88,000 damage. Vortex Vanquisher R1 with no buffs. And when you add buffs, it's going to go up to about 137,000 damage. Then if you go for an R5, this is the damage difference between the two, 107 and 156 respectively. Now when you switch things to an attack percentage goblet as well as attack percentage sands, you end up getting a way higher damage value. But when you get to the buffing section, when you add on an attack percentage buff, what actually happens when adding like a Bennett buff or a Sarah buff is you get to really similar damage values. You'll notice that I'll get about 137,000 up here, and then when I add 137 here. So you actually get very, very close numbers, and that's depending on the buffs that you're using for team composition. So when people say about this is the best weapon for Ball, what's really funny is that when people talk about the attack percentage goblet and attack percentage sands, it actually does matter if you're going to be using buffs or not in the equation when you're looking at damage, because attack percentage is very different when it's calculated with more attack percentage versus using an elemental goblet and an attack percentage. I know this might be like way too dank for a lot of you, but essentially what this all means is that when you're calculating the overall best weapons for Ball, it's really going to depend on the artifacts you're going to be choosing for the character as well as the weapon. So when calculating all of this, I actually went through and looked through a bunch of different ways that you can work out different weapons and stat ratios in order to give you a more optimized pairing. All right, and then in the fire dog shit tier, the trash dumpster fire, where kiddies go to play, we have the Crescent Pike, the slime weapon, the HP for Zhongli, the Khitan Crossbeer, which is the new weapon, and of course the Dragon Spine Spear. None of these weapons are very good for Ball because none of them have optimized stats for what Ball actually needs between attack percentage and damage percentage, energy recharge. They're basically weapons that just are dead stat sticks that don't even help Ball besides the base stat. Now into the these are okay. These are all weapons they can work, but they're just not great. You can make arguments to boost out the elemental skill damage for the Khitan Crossbear at Refine 5. You can make arguments for the Dragon Spine Spear, the Dragon's Bane at Refine 1. Royal Spear at R1 and R5 will all be here. The White Tassel as well at R1 and R5. Lithic Spear was a weapon that I wanted to talk about too. This weapon is very poor on ball because a lot of the team composition you'll be using won't be heavy on leeway characters, and you'll get like at most like 2 leeway characters in your team composition typically to rock with a ball because you can't use Beidou, so you're out on that character specifically, so that kind of sucks. So you're losing out on all the characters you really want to put on. And of course, if you get the weapon to refine 5 between Crescent Pike and Dragon Spear, I mean, the proc damage puts it up to be okay, I guess, kind of, sort of, maybe not really. But yeah, Black Tassels, I put that on too. All right. Now the important tier, which is what a lot of people care about, is going to be these will all work pretty good, but they're not the catch. Okay. We have, of course, the Fuvonius Spear. Now, the Fuvonius Spear, when I did testing, this spear is actually really good with an energy recharge main stat, but it actually doesn't get better with refines because the only thing it does is it creates more energy battery generation, and that's actually not super helpful for the damage increase for ball. It does particle funnel to give you some extra energy, but with the character that like ball where you have a lot of energy recharge already, this is kind of a non-needed weapon, and the particles that you generate here don't really give you any more damage, and it kind of makes your damage go a little bit down and overkill on the energy. So it's not very great. Royal Spirit Refine 5, you can make some arguments that Refine 5 this weapon's okay because you have a lot of hits on ball, and you could say that the proc that you can do can snapshot while you're off field and then just go in. So there's some arguments that this speed can be okay at Refine 5, but I never would recommend anybody to actually buy this and make it. Blackcliff and Deathmatch are both at Refine 1 are both okay. The stat stick on these are pretty decent. They're not insane weapons. They're definitely okay. They're pretty much on the same level as a Refine 1 catch. So at Refine 1, these weapons are all pretty good. They're not insane. Next up, we got the Dragon's Bane. This weapon's okay. It actually works decent on a national team, but it's not the best weapon. I did find that when I saw that this weapon could work with the Hydro and Pyro application while you're using ball, there is some potential here and get some elemental damage and reactions. It could be okay if you have enough crit chance, crit damage, and energy recharge, and all your other stats, but why would you put yourself through that for just trying to make it work, you know? The Skyward Spine, unfortunately, is not a great weapon. I was really kind of disappointed about that. So I did calculations a while back, and I was looking for the Skyward Spine, and the Skyward Spine is this one right here on the left-hand side. And I compared the Refine 1 Skyward Spine to a Refine 5, where is it? Catch, and you can see the R5 catch and an R5 an R1 spine hit for about the same damage if you don't have a buff, but once you add a buff, you can see that the damage on that is a little bit lower on the spine. So I figured, like, with more damage percentage increases, attack percentage increases, and other gains that you can get for attack percentage, seeing how if the attack percentage goes up, this weapon kind of falls off. You can make arguments that the catch will scale significantly better than the spines at Refine 1. So I wanted to give it like a class of its own, and that's why the spine is a little bit lower on the tier list, just because it's marginally less damage than an R5 catch if you get up to like more attack percentage. That's the only reason. You can put it on the same par as the catch if you want to, but like with the way that you're gonna build teams with the catch, this is better on other characters. The other issue is that this weapon also doesn't work with the Vortex procs as well, so you don't really get those. The only thing you get is the extra crit chance on this weapon and the passive, so it doesn't really work great. It works okay though. Tassel R5 could work. You could make arguments to make that work, sure, for the crit chance, and not really. Let's just put that down there. But Lithic at R5, it could work. Now, the other weapon I want to talk about is the Prototype Starglitter. This weapon's really weird. Some people, I'm getting unconfirmed reports on both. Some people says this weapon does work for ball well, and it's pretty good, and some people don't. But this is one of the most rare weapons in the game, and I'm not sure if this weapon actually works for the normal and charge attacks. And the reason I put it here is because I'm not sure if it does. If it does work, then it's up here, right? If the normal charge attacks do work for this, then it's here. You can go attack percentage straight up on this weapon. It's just pretty good. But like otherwise, it'll be down here because I'm not really sure what's up with this weapon. A lot of people say it does work, and a lot of people say it doesn't work. So I don't know. I got way too many conflicting reports. So I don't know. Okay, now we have the next tier, which is called the Estiaf normies. These are people that are normal people that play Genshin Impact, and these weapons are all awesome. We have the R5 catch, which is one of the best free-to-play option overall for Ball because it is the weapon that every single player in the entire game can get, and yes, it's worth getting. It's definitely not the best overall weapon for Ball, but it's pretty freaking good. We got the Staff of Homa Refine 1. We have the Vortex Vanquisher Refine 1, Deathmatch Refine 5, what is it called? The Blacklift Pulnament Refine 5, Jade Spear Refine 1, and Skyward Spine Refine 5. All of these weapons are really, really good, and there are no issues with any of these weapons. The thing is, between all of the weapons, you could make arguments that one is better than the other. Say, like the Jade Spear could be better in certain situations. You can make arguments that Deathmatch could be better than some other weapons. You can make arguments that Blacklift could be really good for you specifically. But all of these weapons are on the same bracket as far as power scaling, and will do very, very similarly across the board. The reason this R5 Skyward Spine is so high is because the R5 Skyward Spine has a 16% crit chance passive as well as a really high base attack, which allows you to get any bigger gain from attack percentage goblet as well as attack percentage sands. It also allows for any other elemental damage goblet boosters to help you out in a bigger way because you have less energy recharge and elemental damage overall.
Both the Deathmatch and the Blacklift both have really, really good options here. The problem, of course, with the Blacklift is getting the stacks, but with the most recent Abyss and a lot of other content that we've had lately, you're fighting a lot more enemies, so fighting with a spear that relies on you getting kills is not difficult, especially in a character that does as much damage as Ball. And when I did use a Blacklift spear, I didn't really feel it was an issue. As far as Deathmatch goes, I haven't been able to try it, but it'll vary on the damage gain that you do have based upon the total amount of attack percentage gain that you're going to be getting from other sources, as well as the elemental goblet / energy gains that you're getting from other sources. Now, into the Giga Chad tier, these are the best overall weapons for Ball if you can get them. If you are looking at any weapon, I did the math on these. The Engulfing Fate and the R5 Staff of Homa, as well as the R5 Vortex Vanquisher, are extremely good. You can see the Vortex Vanquisher is going to top out around like 110,000 with a Refine 5 and get to 153 with a buff. Staff of Homa in a similar boat where it actually starts at a lower value, ends at a much higher value. But the interesting thing about Staff of Homa does not actually get a huge gain on Refine, so you don't actually get a big massive buff here. As Skyward Spine goes though, you don't really get a bigger bump overall. The Jade Spear, however, as you can see, is very strong, because when you get the Jade Spear to max stacks, you actually end up doing a ridiculous amount of damage. But it is still slightly less, so I guess you could make arguments for it to stay at a lower tier, because it is better than a lot of the other weapons in this tier. It's probably the overall best weapon in this tier, but it's, it's not as good as this by a hair. Plus, you also have to get the stacks on the Jade Spear, so there is a problem with that, of course, getting the max stacks. So for on-field maintenance, you're gonna have the same issue with the Vortex Vanquisher, but it does okay. And the Engulfing Lightning actually is a very interesting weapon as well. As you can see, if you use an Engulfing Lightning with a proc, you get a much higher number, whereas if you don't get with the proc, it's a much lower number. So the damage on the Engulfing Lightning is going to depend on if you get the proc or not. I'm not 100% sure because we're in like the first few days of the patch, so I actually don't know if the Engulfing Lightning actually utilizes the proc in order to increase the damage, and so you get a bigger attack percentage bump and elemental damage bump. So it does seem like if it does, it's a very good proc, but I'm not sure. This weapon is comparable to the Jade Spear, but better in a lot of regards because you don't have to worry about the stacks. I wanted to compare all of these to the catch. The catch is, of course, at Refine 5, not as strong as a lot of the 5-star weapons, but you don't have to, ramp up stacks. Whereas the two weapons that we're going to be talking about that ramp up stacks, of course, the Jade Spear as well as the Vortex Vanquisher. There's no stat ramp up, so you don't have to worry about that. The Staff of Homa is an incredible option overall, and at Refine 5, it doesn't really get a bigger bump, but I do find it to be a great weapon, and it definitely deserves to be in the Giga Chat tier. And the final tier of the tier list is going to be I love the new weapon better pity system because now I can refine 5 weapons at so much cheaper ratings, and then there will never be another Staff of Homa banner. So R5 Grass Cutter and of course R5 Jade Spear, best 2 weapons for Ball as far as high refine weapons go. Pretty darn good. But Engulfing Lightning's better. But that's gonna do for this video. My name is Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, of course, like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.